Call to order, Gladstone Planning Commission, 525 Portland Avenue, Gladstone, Oregon, 97027. Today is Tuesday, January the 16th, 2018. The time is approximately 6:30. Roll call.
Commissioner Natalie Smith.
Present.
Commissioner Malachi. Commissioner Poole.
Here.
Commissioner Wentz.
Here.
Commissioner Pat Smith.
Here.
Chair Rowlett.
Here. Let's salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, we've got a new planning commissioner that's going to be sworn in first, and then we'll go to the consent agenda and approval of the meeting minutes, and then to the regular agenda, which is a continuation of the public hearing from last month to amend the comprehensive plan. And this is a recommendation to the City Council for those who were not here last month. The public hearing is still open, and we'll just continue with that. So, let's get our new commissioner.
You'd like to come up here? Have you raise your right hand?
Okay.
And I'm gonna read off of this, and then you're gonna follow and repeat what I say.
Okay.
I state your name.
I, Andre Langston,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the State of Oregon
and the State of Oregon
and the Charter and Municipal Code of the City of Gladstone,
and the Charter and Municipal Code of the City of Gladstone,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
perform the duties of Planning Commissioner
perform the duties of Planning Commissioner
for the City of Gladstone, Oregon,
for the City of Gladstone, Oregon,
during my entire term, so help me God.
during my entire term, so help me God.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
Take your seat.
You're stuck by me.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here. Thanks for doing this. All right. Thank you for coming. Below, the items below are considered to be routine and enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a commission member or person in the audience requests specific items be removed from the consent agenda for discussion prior to the time the commission votes on to adopt the consent agenda. So the only item on the consent agenda is approval of December 19, 2017 minutes.
You entertaining a motion?
Okay.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
I second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. None opposed. Agenda passes. Now on to the regular agenda is a continuation of the public hearing to amend the comprehensive plan and to include downtown revitalization plan. The Planning Commission has their packets from last month. And Commissioner Langston, did you have an opportunity to read and watch the video of the last month's meeting?
I was here at last month's meeting.
Okay.
And I've read the information.
Do you feel like you're enough involved and with it to be able to vote?
I think so.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to continue the public hearing from last month. And at that time we were discussing some of the things that were presented to us. Well, all the stuff that was presented. And so the way I'd like to proceed is just to continue not being real strict and stringent, but to listen to public testimony and other testimony. Were you going to speak about the plan? And then when I've read read through the minutes and the new information that we have, it looks like, we really need to just kind of start with some of the appendix and work through those with our recommendations. We've got some new information here that I would like to have read into the record. So, who wants to start reading?
I can go ahead and read Commissioner Malachi's. Unfortunately, it looks like I will not be able to get off work in time for tonight's meeting. While not addressing a specific issue in the document, I think it is important to address one particular concern before it's presented to City Council, whether Planning Commission recommends approval or denial. Specifically, the pages needed to be indexed in some fashion so that Council can quickly find what page someone is talking about. This will also be a requirement if the document is to be referenced by any other city document or code. Sorry about my absence tonight and the late notice.
Okay, so we can consider that. And then we have, Commissioner Smith, you have, what?
I have something left behind by William Preble, who was unable to attend tonight. He asked it to be read into the record. Planning Commission members, concerning the upcoming meeting to discuss the adoption of the downtown, what's the DPR acronym for? Downtown Plan?
Revitalization.
Revitalization. So DPR henceforth will be referred to as, or the downtown plan revitalization will be referred to as DPR as this goes along. There are several items I believe need further discussion before voting to recommend. Number one, I'm very concerned about the recommended action to expand our urban renewal area to include adding private properties along the designated core area and one block between Berkeley and Arlington Streets. Enacting this will make those businesses eligible for urban renewal funds to upgrade storefronts at the expense of the Gladstone taxpayer. Urban renewal funds are nothing more than property taxes paid by the properties that are inside the urban renewal zone. At a time when Gladstone is already challenged with failing infrastructure and school funding, I do not believe this would be a good use of our property tax revenue. I also believe this proposal stretches the intent of the urban renewal program to restore blighted areas. Oregon Urban Renewal describes building blight as quote, buildings that are unsafe or unfit for occupancy, end quote. Studies published in the DRP state discrepancies along Portland Avenue show relatively few vacancies. Number two, discrepancies in the description of Portland Avenue beginning on page 11 of the executive summary list Portland Avenue strengths as, quote, relatively low traffic street, good for autos, bikes, pedestrians, end quote. While the rest of the references in the document describe Portland Avenue as, quote, a wide street that promotes higher travel speeds, is undefined and unwelcoming to bicycles and is difficult for pedestrians to cross with ease, end quote. Having lived in Gladstone for many years, I find the first description much more accurate and wonder if the description was later changed to fit a recommendation to redesign the traffic pattern within the entire length of Portland Avenue. Is this traffic redesign needed? I believe this is worthy of discussion. Lastly, the December 19th meeting, Commissioner Wentz commented that we, commissioners, were all on the same page concerning the recommendations and that the only problem was the parking issue. I brought to Commissioner Wentz's attention that I had more issues than just parking and was told by Commissioner Wentz that I should have brought them up. I then reminded the Commission that I did bring them up and they were discussed earlier in the meeting. I suggest Commissioner Wentz or any member reference the video of the meeting if they did not hear or had forgotten the particulars. Commissioner Wentz then commented suggesting that recommending the financing wasn't important since the final decision would be made by the City Council. This appears to be a flawed process. If the Planning Commission can recommend to adopt with the thought the City Council does not have to pass, then the City Council can pass with the excuse it was recommended by the Planning Commission. In the end, no responsibility by either group. If a recommendation is removed from the DRP, it can be proposed at a later date by the City Council and run through the proper process. This would leave the City Council with the sole responsibility, and isn't that what we don't pay them for. I strongly urge the Commissioners to consider each item with the possibility that the City Council can and will adopt a recommendation along with ramifications if adopted. While I understand the Commissioners do not have to agree with all the recommendations, some are trivial, but some have such high density as housing, parking, redefining the urban rural boundary, traffic design, and optional new taxes, will have a direct effect on the citizens of Gladstone that should be considered carefully. This is not an all-or-nothing recommendation. Project Manager Jenny Lipscomb reminded the Commission that they are not comfortable with the vision or how things are addressed in the plan. This is your opportunity to recommend to the City Council that language can be changed and policy statements can be changed and certain things become explicit in the plan. I assume all members of the current Planning Commission applied for the position expecting and wanting to play a part in these major decisions regarding our city. I believe to recommend to adopt with the idea that the City Council may not approve certain recommendations would be a missed opportunity for the Planning Commission members to make a difference. To finish, I would like to thank the members of the Commission for their time and commitment to the City of Gladstone and its citizens. I understand it is a time-consuming and sometimes thankless job. Respectfully, William Preble, 18300 Oakfield Road.
All right. And then we have this letter from December 19th, or it's a petition.
This
Yeah,
was presented at December 19th meeting, but it was
Okay.
posted on the website and has not been formally given to commission members.
Yeah, I think I saw it, but that's because I read the packet off of the website, I think. But what it is, do you think we need to read this? I think we need to read it. Who wants to read it? Libby?
Sure, I'll read it. Okay, changes on Portland Avenue, December 19, 2017. Everyone in the Old Town area of Gladstone should take interest in the Planning Commission on the 19th at City Hall at 6:30 p.m. Some of the suggestions in the presentation may be good for some people and bad for others. The loose page packet I sent is about 250 pages, and I am not sure that I have everything. The initial survey was close to the bottom, but it should have been on page 1 and followed by the planners. There have been meetings where not everyone on the committee were notified, and some of the people at these meetings do not live here. Everyone in the Old Town area should be considered a stakeholder and should have been sent a letter of notification informing them of the manner in which these code changes will affect their homes. I have not seen a copy of what was discussed at the meetings I was not notified of. Very few people read public notices. Citizens of Gladstone should have first the consideration for any and all code changes. There is the suggestion for financial subsidies for the developers, which is a tax-based or fee-based. We all have fees in our water bill, which we did not vote on and have no choice in paying. There are reports that the developers for Portland Avenue are complaining of the cost of 3-story construction and are looking for funds to subsidize their developments from several sources, including the residents of the city. This was not discussed at any of the meetings when I was present, but was a suggestion in one of the reports close to the back. Many people signed a letter objecting to changes in the codes which require less parking and will result in overflow parking in the block surrounding Portland Avenue. The letter also objects to 3-story construction in the area of Portland Avenue, which will have a negative effect on the surrounding blocks. This letter was not enclosed in the loose page packet and has not received consideration. To my knowledge, these people were not notified. The survey taken at the beginning of this project indicates that 68% of the people doing the survey were in favor of 1 to 2-story construction. These people are being ignored. When 3-story construction was brought up at one of the meetings, many of us were surprised and shocked. The survey indicates that most of the surrounding area is homeowner occupied. No homeowner wants a duplex or any other multi-use dwelling built next to them. A few years ago, there's a group of people who work long hours and days to eliminate duplexes from the Old Town area. Now it appears that there is an influence attempting to reverse this decision. There is a recommendation that 4-hour parking restrictions be placed on the first block of East Dartmouth. These people may not be able to park in front of their houses. Were they notified? Nose-in parking on the east side of Portland Avenue with the elimination of the turn lane was asked for repeatedly and has been ignored. The extension of the multi-use corridor was not discussed at the meeting I was at. This is a major change in zoning and does not appear the residents involved in this were contacted with the change and impact on their homes. If a homeowner is not notified that it will now be legal to build a duplex next to his home, he has not been notified. Years ago, there was a group of people who work long hours and days to eliminate duplexes/multifamily from this very area. It appears that there is a group of people who want to reverse this decision. Per the survey, most homes in or surrounding the multi-use corridor are owner-occupied. No homeowner wants a duplex for other multi-use buildings next to their home. There is the consideration to restrict offices on Portland Avenue and only accept retail business. We all see the retail businesses, large and small, which are now being replaced by online shopping. Offices on Portland Avenue have kept the street alive. People who are paying rents on new construction do not have disposable income to spend elsewhere, let alone on Portland Avenue. Milwaukee has about 3 blocks occupied by Dark Horse Comics, and they are not open to the public. Altogether, there may be 3 retail openings on Main Street in Milwaukee. A shopping district on Portland Avenue is not realistic. Again, I do not remember a discussion on banning offices at a meeting. There is not a law forcing our city to increase population density. With the opening of the Webster Road apartments and with the planned expansion of the Somerset Retirement Center, our city has already increased population density. Metro cannot force us to increase population density. Some of us have been given the expectation that the new library was 2 years away from construction. This report suggests that the library and the new walking bridge are now 5 years away. There are people in this town who have been trying to build a new library since 1979. This building should come first. Why is the library the last consideration for development in our city? Again, I do not remember a discussion delaying the library 5 years. Thank you for your time. Linda Cosgrove.
And there's a number of signatures along with this, and all this can be found on the web page for the City of Gladstone. If you haven't seen it, you need to. It's really good. And all of our meetings are recorded and on that, so you can go back and watch previous meetings. Do we have any other correspondence or anything else on this part? Does anybody want to speak? Either for or against, doesn't matter. You can come up and say your name and talk about whatever you want related to this particular item. Were you guys here last month? This is a legislative hearing, so it's really informal. And we kind of took away a lot of the formalities so that everybody would have a chance to speak, and the public hearings continued, so it was never closed, so you can come and say whatever you want, anybody, about this particular thing. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. You can say, just, we're smiling and we're friendly.
I don't want to speak. I'm not a public speaker. I'm older than anybody in the room, probably. And I don't have the ability anymore.
Okay, well...
I'm happy with some of the things that are happening in our church. I've been here for 60 years.
Well, I'd sure like to hear what you have to say.
Some other time. I'll write it down and read it to you.
Okay.
Would it be all right if she asked any questions from her seat?
Yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask, and we'll be happy to, one of us will probably be able to answer your question if you have one.
Wish my husband was here, he's the one that can talk.
He likes to talk.
Well, no, he knows. Yeah, we've been
You,
here.
you don't have to be formal at all. Just say, hi, my name is, and, I like or dislike this or that, and, we want to hear what you have to say.
I don't think we need more taxes. We need more taxes in Oregon City, they're 5 times bigger than us. Yeah. So, if we pay our mother's taxes, we're paying more than they are. The letters that were read there, they're valid, and you should listen to those people that can, stand up for the rest of us that won't speak.
There's several people in Gladstone that do a really good job of that, and we're happy that they do. And we're happy that everybody is interested in what we do, and we are, we live here, and we do this because we care about the city, all of us. David does too. You don't live in Gladstone, though, do you, David? But he's, part of our staff, and we appreciate having him here, and everybody.
Susan
Hi.
Lipton had her hand up.
I have a question, Chairman Millett.
You want to come up, Susan, and say,
I wasn't going to speak.
well, if you didn't, we'd feel like something was wrong.
Something right. Susan Liston, Gladstone, Oregon. I can see both sides. I thought that I read a letter in the Enterprise Courier this last week that really addressed this. There are two sides to everything. You can say, well, if we get a lot of building and a lot more people, that can be really good, and we get all this growth and everything. But there can be a lot of problems associated with that as well, and those concern me. I also wonder, why is it that it's only from, I think it's from Arlington to Dartmouth, that you require, in this plan, requires commercial space on the bottom. That doesn't happen from Exeter on down. So from Exeter on down, we could be faced with very small 3-story apartment buildings that don't require parking. Maybe you would see that as a good thing. Maybe you wouldn't. I don't necessarily see it as a good thing. I also do have concerns when citizens are being taxed and they're also being feed now, because, and I understand the reason for some of the fees. I know that we need better infrastructure. Am I making this clear at all, Libby, or am I just going around in circles?
I know what you're talking about. It sounds fine to me.
Okay, well, because you have to get voter approval if you're going to go over the 3% or whatever, something that's required. I don't know. You have to get voter approval for tax increase. But you don't have to get voter approval for fee increases. Like we just, they increased the fees for our water service and for whatever. And I understand, I agree that we need to fix our infrastructure. At the same time, if we are putting money into infrastructure, why should we be spending our urban renewal, which is in effect tax dollars, for private development, okay? That would be a question.
So that's kinda, what we're, looking at this plan, and that part of that is, maybe we need to adjust some of the things that are recommended in the, to update the plan.
Right.
So, did you get a chance to see the packet, the new packet for tonight?
No, I haven't seen the new packet for tonight. I'm sorry.
In the back, they've got, one of the consulting firms, it's Johnson Economics, and they suggested due to the length of the plan document and its appendices, the commission might consider making general recommendations on broader themes of the plan or the plan's recommended approach to key issues rather than attempting to redline text of the document. This approach allows the thoughts and concerns of the planning commission to be communicated to the council without expending the council's time and resources to reach a level of granular detail which the council may or may not adopt. So what we're, I think, charged with here is to make some general recommendations on the comprehensive plan, and things that you said just now are, we have the flexibility and we are listening to what the citizens say, and I know that we'll be discussing those things.
There is a lot of concern. I would like to see, I'm all for our pedestrian bridge. I hope that comes to fruition. But there are many things that I have concerns about. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how it's going to play out. I would say we've got unbelievable, incredible strengths here, being on the Clackamas River, at the confluence of the Clackamas and the Willamette River. We shouldn't sell ourselves short, okay? We can be pretty exclusive, We can, things will take care of themselves. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak? Bill?
Bill Osborne. I talked about the parking last time, and I know you guys got in a discussion and have probably talked about this since then, but the head-end parking, I think, was a good thing. I know there was discussion at the last meeting because the plan called for the parallel to curb parking, and I wasn't planning on coming tonight, and I was down at the post office, and I was parked. There was a spot between me and the car behind me, and as I was sitting there going through things, car come in, tried to parallel park, didn't, they should have had enough room, but apparently they couldn't get parked in parallel parking there. So that spot for them essentially wasn't there. So I know parking's been a big thing on all this. Hopefully you guys looked at the head-end parking. Sounded like everybody was pretty much on board with that as a better idea, and I just wanted to come up and state my opinion on that as well. That's what I would support. It seems to make the most sense.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak?
Here we go.
Oh, good. Come on up.
Okay. Hi, I'm Bob Everett. Live here in Gladstone. Own a business here in Gladstone, just a block down the street on Portland Avenue. I've been there almost 30 years. And I said this last time, and I'll say it again. And I'm not going to nitpick between each and everything, because I do agree there are things in there that probably should be changed, and there's a lot in there overall, and that's the daunting task, and I understand that. It's daunting for me looking through the thing, but I will say one thing. If we don't do something now, it will never be done, in my opinion. It hasn't been done for 30 years, and I've said this before. I look at that street, and I look how it's deteriorated all these many years, and I don't like it. And I think we need to move ahead. Change is daunting, and it's scary. It's scary for me. There was a comment in a letter about what it's going to do to the businesses down there as they work. I'll take it as it is. I just have to plan for it. And that's all you ever do. Because life is change, and that's what that has to be. And yes, maybe we don't need everything that's on there, but we need something. And, I mean, I drive home at night, and I pull out of there, and there's not a single light there. There's not. It is so dark that anybody, I swear, I mean, I can't see anybody. And that's got to change. And until it does, there won't be anybody else. I don't feel the Happy will tend to sell. It might. I don't feel it will be developed. You know, I look across the street at the house across the street, and somebody moved their refrigerator out on the front store, on their front deck. There's been a stove out there for ages. Do I like looking at that across the street, on Portland Avenue, on what I consider to be our home street? That's our town, and I love this town, and that is it, and that reflects on the city in general. So that's all I have to say. And I just hope something is done. I don't want to see this go by the wayside, and I will be sad if it does. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're running out of people. So, how would you like to proceed? I think we should leave the public hearing open and just start discussion on some of this. Seems like the most important parts that we need to get through are Appendix C. Was recommended that we go through Appendix C and discuss. And I think, David, do you agree that it's just generally we need to somehow make any changes that we want to make to the broad recommendations that are in Appendix?
Yeah, I do, Chair Roulette, but I guess I would say that what you're, just to, and Jenny, you can chime in if you think I'm wrong here, but ultimately what you're being asked to consider and recommend for good or for bad to the council is Appendix A, the plan provisions, the recommended changes to your comprehensive plan. There certainly are many other appendixes, appendi, plenty of other documentation there. I get that. That all relate to Exhibit Appendix A in a way, but ultimately what is being proposed at this point for ultimate adoption by the City Council are the 13 plan provisions, and it's just Appendix A. Doesn't look like it has a page number per se, but it's, I don't know, an eighth of the way through the packet. It's pretty early on. And what you see there are 13 additions, recommended additions to your comprehensive plan that are listed just 1 through 13 initially, and then, and again, tell me if I'm reading this the wrong way, are also put into, on the next page, the next couple pages, put into existing plan language, so they're just sort of put in context of what it might look like if they were adopted.
Well, one of the things I read was not to get hung up like on Appendix B on all the code stuff, because that's all going to come later. And so we should not, really spend much time on that, if any. And then Appendix C kind of has, like, the streetscape and the districts and, the widths of the streets and the mixed-use corridors and things like that, if we agree or disagree with.
Gone too far the other way.
some of that. So let's start with Appendix A.
See, that's just Appendix A. Give me help here, because I'm finding the Appendix A that's just maps.
That's right in this section. Kind of like an eighth of an inch
recommended
through
Which comes back to why it needs tabs or something, so that it can even
that's
be
why
on.
I've got all these little sticky notes, because I had to go through and make all
You
my
found
own
it.
tabs.
No,
No.
No, it's APG is the only thing I could see, and then
It does have a page number, unfortunately. It's up at the top, so it starts, I mean, it's
There's no page number on ours.
Right.
one on mine either.
Yeah.
In my packet from last month,
What's up here, she's talking about if you flip the page over.
it begins around page
2 of 4, 3
52,
of 4.
but it isn't, there's a page 51 in your packet from last month, on the bottom right-hand corner, and it begins on the following page.
I think you're on the right track there.
There you go.
Yep, you're right, 51.
Sorry.
Chairman Roulette?
Yes.
There's been a couple of issues the public has raised that I'd like some clarification from my cohorts here.
Okay.
I haven't seen anything that says that professional offices are to be excluded from Portland Avenue, but that issue's been raised, that it only can be retail. Is that, have I missed something?
No, I haven't, I was never aware of that either.
'Cause sometimes things
What?
I didn't see that either.
begin to percolate and they become reality when in effect somebody thinks that might have happened.
All during this process, I've always heard mixed use, retail, office, living.
Okay.
That's what I've heard from the
I
beginning.
think there was something that talked about that offices were not, and they mentioned the 3 blocks of Milwaukee, downtown Milwaukee, where they have Dark Horse Comics. That's not the most greatest thing in the world, but I don't think they ever said don't allow offices.
Okay.
But I think, the idea of what this comprehensive plan amendment that we're working on was that the core here in Gladstone, down, like say when they tear this building down, there's going to be a library, we hope. But if they redeveloped along this avenue in the core area, that it would be probably 2 or 3 story buildings with retail space down below and then living space above, but I don't see what would be wrong with having office space in some of that either.
At any of the meetings I went to, they never mentioned it purely retail.
Okay.
It's
Mixed use development.
Retail, it was just a generic term that could include a business, any business.
Well, I think like a real estate office and things like that would be perfect.
Law office, real estate office.
Yeah.
Also, to
Comment made about the
Pages.
urban renewal extending out
of the
further. Now,
Thank you.
I didn't ever pick that up at any of the meetings I went to. And I have to admit, I haven't read through that whole thing. I've read through a lot of it, but initially when I first started, but I haven't read through it lately.
There's some Bill Prebbles.
But I never heard anything about urban renewal extending out. I also never heard, I never really got a gist that any business along it, myself included, would have the advantage of going back to get urban renewal. I have no, I have no concept in my mind that would ever be allowed. I mean, really. And so I'm a little confused by that portion. If I'm wrong, if it's stated in there, then it shouldn't be stated, because I'm in agreement. I don't think that a business like myself or any other business along there should be allowed to take advantage of urban renewal. But taking it back out of your own money that you make. That's how I feel about it. So I don't know that that's in there or not.
All right.
The letter that came from the the consultant addresses the viability of office spaces in the corridor. I think that was a question was brought up at the last meeting.
Okay.
And they actually have included that in your packet.
I thought I saw it somewhere.
He also addresses the angled parking in his letter too.
Yeah.
You know, and I actually looked really hard at that angled parking on Portland Avenue. If you do that on both sides of the street, and I've got a picture of the auto, you know, the car show, there's not enough room for two lanes of traffic there.
He
So
mentioned.
But why would you put angled on one side? I mean, on both sides, you might do angled on one side and...
well, if they're gonna do bike lanes, then it wouldn't, you know, honestly, I'd rather have angled parking. For
Right.
me, I like it. I was use that today. I like it a lot better in parallel parking. And anyway, but if you did it on both sides, you'd only have one lane of traffic, and I don't think we want that.
No.
Well, I don't think then it is realistic, but one side, like you said, like Bill said, the parallel parking is, you know, not a most preferred thing. I avoid going downtown Portland because of it. I just won't shop down there because I won't do parallel parking. Obviously, I'm not the only person in Gladstone
Right.
anyway who doesn't like the parallel park.
I don't either, but I do it.
And it does,
Challenge.
you know, it does in here say reduce the off-street parking, and I think we all had a problem with any parking being reduced in the city. And I think, I don't know, I agree that I don't think urban renewal is, I'm not a huge fan of urban renewal. I certainly don't think it should help individual property owners. I mean, I could see urban renewal to improve the sidewalks so they're all consistent with street lights that are all consistent along it. But I think if you put that in there, then, and have the bike path come through, then the property will be improved because people will want to buy it and improve it. And I think that's the whole point of urban renewal, is that it makes the area prettier so then businesses come in. Not that we're luring you, come with us, we'll fix your storefront. That's, you know, my opinion on how urban renewal is supposed to work. And
yeah, that's you know, legally speaking, there's a lot of different ways to use urban renewal dollars, and some are less controversial than others. I think the standard approach is as you describe it, basically trying to take that increment, that tax increment that is generated, and put it back into the district for public improvements. There are certain cities, certain counties that will use it for storefront improvements. They'll enter into like grant agreements or match agreements with property owners to say, you know, if you put in X amount of dollars, and the urban renewal district will contribute Y to, you know, improve your storefront or your building's aesthetics. But that's, you know, absolutely just a choice that each jurisdiction would make. There's nothing that says you have to do that. And in Gladstone's case, I think they've generally, if not exclusively, used urban renewal dollars for the types of projects you're talking about.
Road improvements, sidewalks.
Well,
Sewer.
I would add that...
Document,
Oh, go ahead.
Page 43 talks about extend the Gladstone urban renewal area, and explains that is a recommendation that's made by the consultant. And the reason for that is so that it can provide funds to do the modifications in the street that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I also just think on that particular issue, it's really important again to look at what's being asked in Exhibit A in the 13 additions, because that's really again the only thing that is going to be forwarded on to the council. And there's certainly nothing in there that purports to, nor could it, because it has to be a completely separate process, to say that there's going to be an expansion of the urban renewal footprint.
That's an entirely different process to
Right.
expand that, okay.
It has a whole different set of, it's not even technically the city that makes that, it's the Urban Renewal Board and agency. So it's something that I think is part of a much broader set of recommendations in this.
Okay.
But in terms of what would result from what you're doing tonight, that would not be a result.
And just so everyone understands and we're all very clear on this, and hopefully I'm not misinterpreting it, we all are currently contributing into urban renewal funds with our property taxes to a certain percent, correct?
It depends. It would depend on where you live.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be, what I want to clarify is there isn't going to be additional
There's no
property taxes if they used urban renewal funds for some of the improvements.
That is correct.
That is correct? Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
But then isn't it also correct that that money that's taken for urban renewal is money that's not able to be spent on other stuff?
That is correct. Yep. The school, the other taxing, basically the easiest way to think about urban renewal, and you know, I hope I'm not distilling this too much, but you start out with whatever the tax level is before urban renewal, and you have schools, and you have you know, all the different
everything.
The library district, correct.
And fire.
The levies, yep. Then you let's say you say, okay, now we're going to add an urban renewal district, okay? That whatever that amount that's being currently taken in for all those different taxing authorities will stay at that level. It won't. Without urban renewal, that would go up by 3% a year. With urban renewal, all of those amounts for schools, for libraries, for fire, for whatever, stays at that level. As that increment over time goes up, it's the urban renewal agency that takes that difference, puts it back into people's taxes aren't rising, other than they would, over the course of
except in the library or the police
is not getting that revenue.
The money that's going up.
That is correct.
Going back to basically politicians to spend it on projects that they want. That's the problem I have with urban renewal.
That is true. That after the urban renewal period ends, and the theory is that over time, then you have a much larger tax base, and everybody's boat rises. But you're right. Over that period, when the urban renewal agency is in effect, the schools, every other have essentially their tax base frozen, and whatever taxes that would have gone up, that they would have gotten over that period of time, are going back into the urban renewal district.
And then they have to put out other levies, which end up we pay for the levies so that they have enough money to operate on.
That's possible. I'm not saying that's certainly that's not the way it should work, but I think it does at times.
Okay, I'm way out of my element on urban renewal, but I do know this. Okay, I agree with Councilor or Commissioner Wentz's assessment of urban renewal. That is what happens. And the other thing that can happen with urban renewal is the city can borrow against the urban renewal district. Okay, so for instance, if they're planning on using urban renewal money for the new police station in City Hall down at the end of town, they can go into debt, because they can go out and say, okay, we have this amount of urban renewal coming in for this many years, we can pay it back off of that. And sometimes entities get in trouble that way. Okay?
Thanks.
That was a good point. And in the case of our situation in Gladstone, not to get too far into urban renewal weeds, but I know a little about it, I would just say that we're devoting a considerable amount of that to the requirements that we have for police station and for the city hall. So I don't know how many dollars we're talking about here, but whatever it is, it does come from our property taxes or from those in the district. And I don't believe we're making a decision specifically on whether or not urban renewal district would be expanded here.
Yes,
but at the same time, a message or a recommendation one way or the other could come from us, because I've got cautions about some of the ways I've seen urban renewal used before, and I go back, and look, and I see places where it's been used properly. So it's really going to be incumbent on our council and our urban renewal district and the citizens and everyone to really be on top of it, so we're not building something that we all feel great about while the police station sewer's backing up. I'll leave it at that.
Well, number 10 does say, assist businesses and property owners with enhancing exterior of buildings to attract new tenants and contribute to the aesthetic quality of the downtown. That's urban renewal. It might not call it urban renewal. What is it, like fairy dust gets sprinkled or something like that? I mean,
Well,
it's
Oregon
gotta come
City
from
has,
somewhere.
they have a thing in Oregon City, and I don't know for sure if it's urban renewal dollars or not, but they do that. They, you know, you can apply for so much money that's been put aside by the city to do the facade on your buildings.
Yeah, especially if
But
you're
I
doing
think
Main
that's what
Street.
that is, but if you guys want to strike that,
Yeah, I think that's the way you should look at it, is think, okay, so maybe that is the language, and maybe as Commissioner Poole says, put in even though it's really not, I think it's absolutely fine if the direction from the commission would be, there's been enough talk about urban renewal in this document, even though it's not a part of these plan provisions per se, we want to make sure the city council knows that as a commission, at least the
don't
majority of
recommend
us do not believe you should enlarge the urban renewal district. I think that's absolutely fine to be part of what you would recommend.
what do you think?
I'm in agreement with Commissioner Wentz.
I am too.
Les?
Yes, I think so as well.
So number 10 should be, we don't recommend.
Or you could say, you know, I mean, with
Maybe
number
rephrase
10, just again, to make sure we're looking at it with assist business and property owners with enhancing the exterior appearance of buildings to attract new tenants. And you could say without the use of any urban renewal dollars, you could, because there would be another way you could potentially reduce or eliminate fees for people to come in and apply for those things. That would be a way to assist them.
There's a 6% tax on transient rentals. Maybe that some of that money could be put into some kind of fund for that or something. So let's. So I think the commission as a whole agrees that we shouldn't, not recommend this number 10 the way it reads. How would you think a good way to
I
say
think the
that?
comment without using urban renewal funds
Okay.
would be appropriate, and you could still leave it.
And so from a procedural standpoint, you're not going to have to at the end of this, unless you want to. You certainly can, but that's probably a bit painful. You don't have to go through each one of these at the end of tonight and say, okay, and I'll have a motion for amending it. The way I would recommend it is that you develop a consensus as to what these would say, like you're doing now with number 10.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, and then at the end of the night, just say, can we have a motion to forward to the city council Appendix A with the changes we've discussed?
So who's going to track the changes that we're going to? Because I want to go through all of these, and then we
Commissioner
can.
Poole. Well, he has the most land use experience.
I love it.
You want to track that, and then when the motion's made that we're going to vote on,
Wanna
then
do it?
we can say for the city recorder to make it easier for
Okay,
the
you're-
city recorder
He'll
to.
keep notes and
Read them
Yeah.
back.
You want to do that, Les?
I'll do that, that's fine.
Good.
I'll read them, you keep them.
So as a whole, the commission believes that number 10 needs to be modified.
Correct.
All right, so what's the next one? Should we start with 1 and just go
Yep.
through them?
Let's do it.
Okay, number 1, contribute to regional growth management goals by adopting policies and development regulations that are consistent with the designation of downtown Gladstone as a town center in the Metro 2040 growth concept. So that's what do you think?
Actually, that's an issue I brought up at the last hearing, because when you're designated, there's different designations Metro has, and when you think of a town center, we think of Clackamas Town Center, and it is a town center. When you're designated as a town center, you're looking at more of a regional feeder, and so I've got concerns about us actually being a town center, because I think that what comes with it will end up with what's going on in Hillsdale. And there are other designations that the city could have that would still accomplish our goals. Has anyone looked or have we heard anything about what it really means to be a town center in the real world? Not in theory, but in theory we're gonna do A, B, and C, and when I look at what's going on in Portland, we do A, B, C, D, and E, and D and E are we overwhelm the streets and the infrastructure. So I'm a little I'm a little hung up on the word town center, and what does that really mean? What are we really getting into? And make me wrong, by all means.
If I understand correctly, Gladstone is already designated as a town center, and I can't tell you what the definition is, but it has to do with the metro and their whole plan for this
Right.
2040. So I don't think it's not changing anything, it's just changing your documentation so that it says the town center.
Does anyone in this room know how we got to be a town center?
David?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not trying to put
First
anybody
No,
on the spot.
I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that Gladstone was.
But I'm pretty sure as we were going through this, that was one of the things
Yeah.
that we talked about. But
And I'm not trying to, pick this thing apart, but it's like any document, certain words or certain...
And I don't think we need to be designated as a town center.
I don't know what it means, though. Really, I don't.
Well, here's what Metro defines it as.
So we have regional...
Town centers, I don't know if this is the official definition, but this is on their website. Provide services to tens of thousands within a 2 to 3 mile radius. 1 to 3 story buildings for employment and housing are characteristic. Town centers have a strong sense of community identity and are well served by transit. They include small city centers such as Lake Oswego, Tualatin, Westland, Forest Grove, Milwaukee. And then they talk about large neighborhood centers, Hillsdale, St. John, Cedar Mill, Oloa.
So I think we're a town center,
Yeah,
according to that.
I don't really have any issues with that.
I don't know where we're seeing 1 to 3 story buildings. It's not happening in Hillsdale or a lot of places.
Well, they're bigger. Hillsdale was...
I know, but I'm just saying, if I can take you down to almost any place where there's a town center, and we're 4 and 5 and 6 stories high. And I'm not saying that we're going to be 4 or 5 or 6 stories high here. What I'm saying is if we're going to be maxed out at 3.5 stories, all of downtown, how is that going to fit? And obviously it would be ludicrous to believe we're going to redevelop with 1-story buildings, or that we're not going to have any 3-story buildings. We're going to, we need to accommodate some growth. Obviously, no one's going to redevelop downtown and do exactly what we'd all like. But the other side of that coin is typically a developer or an investor is looking and more concerned on a return on investment than they are in what fits in Gladstone. And I'm struggling with what fits here. I'm not opposing the idea that we need to pass something, that we need to move forward. And I appreciate Mr. Everett's comments, and I just want to reflect what I said last week, and that is, it's here. The population growth, the future's here now. Absolutely, nothing's happened for 20, 30 years, I agree. It's happening right now. It's happening throughout the region. So things are going to change in Gladstone, and we are going to pass something, but is this ready? That's my question. And I'm getting a little in the weeds, but I'm not real comfortable with what is the definition of Gladstone as a town center for the purposes of us naming it.
So that could be part of the recommendation.
Okay.
Where
how
you
does the
just
council clarify that?
Well, or just say that you would, as a recommendation, prefer that it not be named as such. I am looking right now. Again, I don't have any.
what will the board have?
I'm sorry.
What will we determine in the master plan before?
Well, I'm looking right now at a metro map that indicates your downtown. The part we're talking about is designated as a town center.
I think the definition, what David just read, is the Metro 2040 growth concept for the definition of a town center. Is that correct? And that, 1 to 2 3-story buildings, that doesn't mean they're going to build one. Right now we have a 35-foot limitation on building height, and that's really a 2-story building, I think.
I thought it was 3.
I think it'd be real hard to get a 3...
It's tough to get 3 stories out of 35 feet. But
So right now, I don't, like, in my mind, that would be like the coffee shop, something like that. And
you could also say, the 2040 plan was done, a while ago, as I think most of the commissioners know. You could say in number 1, consistent with the designation of downtown Gladstone in the Metro 2040 growth concept. It's got some designation, right? I mean, every part of the metro area does.
Right.
and just not necessarily specifically refer to it as a town center, given that concern.
Could we say something?
Doesn't change it. The Metro is designated as it designated it.
So, remember we were told that when we were making decisions, it would, for changing anything, like the transportation thing, that it was going to be separate for this downtown revitalization. Are we still going to be, before they would change any of the codes or the zoning, it would still have to come through us before, it wouldn't, nothing that...
Yeah, you go through another process like this for the code rewrite.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It would still have to come through us. If they say, well, instead of 35, we're going to say it's 40 feet. We still ultimately will be able to say
Any changes proposed to the development code, you'd see first. Yep.
Okay, then I'm more comfortable.
So do you have a modification there, Commissioner?
I think as designated sounded good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a designation of something. There's nothing we can. It's already been designated.
Right. And you know how old the document is that you're referencing?
Well, it goes back to late 90s, like around then.
It's at least 30 years old, I think.
Well, that's my understanding. I mean, I know when they did that originally, and obviously things are changing. And the only reason I ask is that if we reference something, we want it to be in today's world.
Sure.
Regardless of how old the document is, I mean, as long as it's valid and there isn't something that's changed and gone beyond that, and now we're agreeing to something we don't even know about.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the Metro 2040 growth plan? I mean, that is the current document.
Right. This
So
is the growth concept. 2040 growth concept is...
Okay.
are you going to scratch the town center part or not?
Go ahead.
What would you designate it as? That would be my only question.
As designated per
Mhm.
the Metro 2040 growth concept. How about that?
The other word.
Do you have any suggestions?
I mean, just when he read the description of, it's to serve, a 2-mile radius or whatever, I think that kind of fits into what things I've heard people say, that they want a place to help serve them,
Right.
but that's just... I apologize.
Speaking to the mic.
No, I mean, part of that definition that you read mentioned serving, a 2-mile radius.
Yeah, I can read it again. It says town centers provide services to tens of thousands of people, I assume, within a 2 to 3 mile radius. 1 to 3 story buildings for employment and housing are characteristic. Town centers have a strong sense of community identity and are well served by transit. And then it says they include small city centers such as Lake Oswego, Tualatin, Westland, Forest Grove, Milwaukee, but doesn't mention Gladstone specifically in this page. And then it says large neighborhood centers, Hillsdale, St. John, Cedar Mill, Aloha.
Yeah. And I understand the concept of not wanting to have like a huge metropolitan or something, but I agree with the idea that we want an area that would serve our community, right?
Yeah. It's, I think, what we're hung up on mostly. Come on up.
We had a council and city staff retreat last week, and one of the things that we said was perhaps the biggest obstacle to getting things done was getting too stuck in the weeds on some of the details. This idea of Metro has of a town center is basically that it's much better to have a lot of these types of businesses and services located in proximity to one another rather than spread all over the map. And so by saying this 6-block area or whatever it is a town center, means that's the places that those kinds of businesses that are going to serve your community should be co-located, so that transportation is easy, access is easy, you're just finding them, and that's the idea, that it's not, because Clackamas Town Center uses the word town center in its title, it doesn't mean that a mall is a town center under the Metro plan, that 1995 plan for urban growth that's looking regionally. But it's saying that cities and citizens are better served when those kinds of things are located in proximity. So they're saying their judgment is Gladstone is one of those places that ought to be considered that. Now, whether you think that the McLaughlin corridor is that for us, or downtown Portland Avenue should or could be that for us, is another matter.
To add to the confusion, Clackamas Town Center is specifically listed as a regional center in Metro
which is a different
speak, and that is a hub of commerce and local government services serving hundreds of thousands of people. They are characterized by 2 to 4 story compact employment and housing development served by high-quality transit. In the plan, 8 regional centers become the focus of transit and highway improvements, and Gateway in Multnomah County, downtown Hillsborough, Tannisboro, and Amberglen, downtown Beaverton, Washington Square, downtown Oregon City and Clackamas Town Center, and downtown Gresham.
So I think the definition that was read by David kind of fits us.
No, there's a better one right under that from the same www.oregonmetro.gov. They describe the town centers, and then the next designation right under it is main streets, which are similar to town centers, a traditional commercial identity, but on a smaller scale with a strong sense of the immediate neighborhood. They feature good access to transit and include Southeast Hawthorne Boulevard in Portland, Boone's Ferry and Lake Grove, Adair and Baseline and Cornelius. I think we're much more a main street than a downtown.
And I think you'll find that the document recommends that as well. That classification
but
also
then,
is
okay,
mentioned.
So then it's no problem to change
number 5.
Yeah, let's
town
change
center
that
to
to
a
Main Street. Thank you, Levy.
It was the next one down on the same website.
Sorry.
One suggestion I may make on the process would be to turn from the list of the 13 individual items to the next page where they put them in context of other things. And you'll see, for example, that the one that talked about assisting businesses with improvements is very consistent with language that has been in our comprehensive plan since 1979. It doesn't say how you assist them. It doesn't say financially assist them. It doesn't say use urban renewal monies to assist them. But it might mean getting them together to be consistent in how they design it, or streamlining the permit process for how they do those improvements. The city will spend a lot more time on implementation strategies for these things than I think we're thinking. We're not supposed to come up with all the strategies tonight. This is where I don't want to see the commission get stuck in the weeds. Look at the big picture, which is the basic goals that could be part of the planning, the comprehensive plan, and then where you'll really earn your pay is, as Commissioner Wentz said earlier, when it comes back to making specific recommendations about changes of code or about designs for implementing a parking management or all of that. That's where we're going to have a lot of community discussion, a lot of public hearings, and things are going to be adopted one code section at a time. But we're not going to try to do all that. We're not going to take 250 pages of expert recommendations and suggestions and try to put them all into effect.
I think it's reasonable, though, to be able to go through these 13 items. It's not that much.
No,
it's a measure. I think that measures that, it's really part of this whole Bible of information that we have. And I can tell you that I've read probably 90% of it. And it made me want to take a nap trying to figure it all out. But I think that, I'd like to get through these 13
and we got
items.
through 2. Yeah. We got through 2.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
So Les, are we going to change that to Main Street?
I think it should be Main Street.
Everyone in agreement. I really think it's a better fit. And when I think about serving a 2 or 3 mile radius, I always think of geography. We're light years away from having a way across the Clackamas. We're kind of the freeway and the commercial area there is what it is. So when I look at our transportation situation and just the geography, I think it's a better fit. And we certainly have to designate ourselves something. I wasn't suggesting that we just get to wing it.
And I appreciate your point on that town center thing, because it could be a technical term that doesn't fit us, and how Commissioner Wentz pointed out that there was a better definition in Metro that I agree with.
Yeah.
In a sense, though, we already are a town center. We have a
many
police station,
ways.
we have a fire station, we have a post office, we have high school 1 block off, we have a grade school, we have a lot of things that
Right.
serve a broader community than those that live within a block of either side of Portland Avenue. I don't know what difference it really makes long-term. What we call ourselves, we're going to be what we're going to be when this is all done. And I don't think by calling us a town center versus a main street is going to have a whole lot to do with any changes in what actually gets done.
Are you okay with it being called Main Street?
Yes, I'm fine with
Okay.
it. I just think it's a distinction without a difference.
I like
Let's
that
do that.
designation better.
Let's put that down.
Main
I
Street.
think you'll find that there is a difference, and I think this is a better fit. I really
Okay,
do. And
number-
then on to the second one.
On to, actually, yeah. Establish the area along Portland Avenue between Exeter Street and Arlington Street as the downtown core of Gladstone.
I'm fine
good with that.
I'm good with that,
Yep.
too.
Sure.
Well,
Okay.
good. Any discussion? Number 3, incentivize
Incentivize.
Incentivize.
retail and mixed-use development in the downtown core to concentrate storefront businesses and pedestrian activity.
I'm fine with that.
I would just go back and say, in a real world, what does that incentivize mean? And
Encourage.
encourage.
Mhm.
Encourage might be even a better word, because you sound like you're giving people cash incentives.
That's true.
All right,
give you
change
that
that
one.
word to, change that word to encourage.
Encourage.
Number 4, outside of the downtown core and throughout the Portland Avenue corridor, encourage a mix of higher density residential, mixed use, and commercial development to support the downtown.
I'm fine with that.
Wait a minute, it says encourage a mix of higher density. Don't you think we should incentivize? I'm just messing. No, that sounds
take
good.
notes.
Any other discussion on 4? Look at that, we're whipping
right.
through these things now.
No, I'm fine with number 4.
That's fine.
Number 5, maintain and enhance design standards that promote a main street, I like that word,
Yep.
character along Portland Avenue while ensuring compatibility with surrounding residential neighborhoods.
I'm totally on board with that.
I think that's what we've heard from the public a lot
Yep.
about.
That brings up parking, though, which we're going to get to.
How can
Yeah.
we ensure
We're
compatibility?
going to talk about parking, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So everybody's good with 5?
Yep.
I'd go back and just say, it says ensuring compatibility, and, I don't want to get cute
We're
with
supposed
words
to be
here.
broad. We're not
Okay.
supposed to be
Yeah.
too narrow.
make a
Ensuring
difference,
is
though.
very narrow. Encouraging or promoting is much looser than ensuring, isn't it? Just asking.
Ensuring could be making sure that the parking is adequate.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I'm fine.
I
I'm
think
just,
I think it's fine.
okay.
All right, number 6, invest in high-quality streetscape on Portland Avenue that encourages walking and bicycling, provides public space for events, and supports storefront businesses.
I'm okay with that. I mean, that not paying for the stores, it's paying for keeping the street and the walks pretty,
Right.
encouraging people to come through, which
Right.
would
Yep.
be
I support
enhancing
it.
the shop.
That's a municipal thing to me, so I'm good with that.
Yep.
Anybody?
No.
You good with that?
Yep.
Good.
Okay.
Number 7, establish Portland Avenue as a key link in the regional bicycling and walking network by creating bike facilities on Portland Avenue and pursuing reconstruction of the trolley bridge. I'll just say right now, to me, the bridge is number 1 on anything
I
on my
agree.
list, because Oregon City is, it's a destination, and hopefully we're going to get some of that traffic that are going to stop and shop here.
I'd rather see the trolley bridge and not have the bicycling investment at this time. Just saying.
I'm curious what the bicycle facilities are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are those bicycle facilities?
One of them is, of course, when you...
It'd be probably bike racks.
Yeah, bike racks, blocks, maybe.
Air pump.
But potentially
You're talking about bike parking and sidewalks. And
Yeah, with an air pump.
You're talking about, you know, just facilitating the parking for them and signage and...
Maybe we get one of those companies that give out free bikes to come here.
Bike Town?
Park a bunch of
Bike
bikes
Town?
out.
Isn't it called
out
Bike
in
Town?
front of-
Nike thing downtown?
Nike bikes.
They'll be good for about 90 days and then they'll disappear.
Well, in Seattle, they've got a new thing. Come on up. Ma'am, would you like to come up?
Just the only thing I wanted to say was, what are you thinking for bike lanes when you're thinking of parallel parking or just driving in?
I think that
Painted designated park lane,
we'll probably get into that discussion a little bit, but there's several ways to promote, you know, bicycling, and that would be part of it, one of them.
Just to answer the question about facilities, we use the term facilities often to describe a building or a structure, but in this context, facilities means anything that facilitates bicycle traffic. So that could include bike lanes on the street, racks for parking, all those kinds of things. It doesn't necessarily mean a physical structure within which to park a bike or maintain a bike or something.
Be a
That
bike
could be
rack.
part of it. But the primary use of the term bike facilities is anything overall, any kind of infrastructure that makes it easier for bikes to be part of the area, and that primarily is bike lanes.
Does that help answer your question, ma'am?
I'll wait and see what
Okay.
you decide.
So, establish Portland Avenue as a key link in the regional bicycling and walking network by creating bike facilities, which could include bike lanes, bike racks, bicycles, people who ride them? No, that's us. On Portland Avenue and pursuing reconstruction of the trolley bridge. I like that, all of that.
okay.
So 7, and now on to 8, build awareness of downtown Gladstone by installing gateway features and directional wayfinding signage at key locations.
Agreed.
Sorry?
I like that.
I agree.
I don't really like the idea of having to put up a gateway thing. I don't like that. I mean, that's kind of silly, I think.
Okay, but gateway features,
Well-
I can
Well,
see
gateway
signage.
feature to me is like when you go to Troutdale, they have that
Yeah.
thing up there, that arch thing. You know what I'm talking about.
I think it's more like,
1,000.
well, I mean, this is the way I think about it. What do I know? But more like, that is one example, like or like the, big rodeo in Molalla. But I think of it more as like maybe a monument sign, something that sort of just establishes like downtown Gladstone, something like that. Not necessarily a big arch.
I think
Street
what
lighting.
we're really talking about is at the intersections, narrowing down or reducing the distance of the crosswalks and creating what they call gateway features there. And I agree with you. I think they're overkilling it. I think this is something we need to walk softly on. Gateway features can mean a lot of things, but when you go looking for grants and when you get out there and you start designing these things, are we going to squeeze off all the streets and squeeze off all the intersections, create visibility problems, and sacrifice a lot of space and the open feel? It's a really difficult thing to have. How do you make it open and inviting, and yet you still need to kind of make it intimate and enclose some things and make it distinctive? But I see some of the things they're doing with intersections that are not safe, in my opinion, and not good utilization of the space.
But again, that would still be something that would come before us when and if that development of those things would happen, correct?
But also there's an assumption when we say, yes, we support gateways, we're saying, yeah, we support everything you showed us in those pictures, and we support what's being done everywhere else. And maybe we do or maybe we don't. Yeah, but good signage is not doesn't meet the definition of gateway. If we think we were going to get by with that, I would be stunned. I understand what you're saying, and it could just mean signage, but I think we just need to establish what it is are our priorities and what is missing here.
The bridge.
Yes, the bridge.
For
Color the water.
clarification, this discussion of this issue came up primarily from business owners who say people don't know where downtown Gladstone is.
This is true.
You drive along Gladstone, you see an exit to get to downtown Oregon City. You don't see that here. It's proposed, if you look at page, the next couple of page 3 of 4 of Appendix A, that this would replace existing language which said, install, quote, city center signs and directional arrow along Oakfield preceding its intersection with Gloucester. So that was the recommendation 40 years ago in the comprehensive plan for how you provide gateways. This sort of broadens that concept without too much specificity on location by saying build awareness of downtown Gladstone by installing gateway features and directional wayfinding signage at key locations. So again, those aren't very specific, and some gateway features obviously would have the characteristics that Commissioner Poole says. They wouldn't be conducive to, but I think the concept is do something that guides people to this. Whether it's on McLaughlin or on Oakfield or on 205 even. You want people to be able to find your downtown, and even though they showed a picture of a big arch, I see that at the entrance to Horton Plaza area in San Diego near the convention center. That's a big city way of doing it. A small town would probably do something more modest.
We should put a sign at the Harley building that says downtown Gladstone this way.
I'm fine with number 8.
The big orange arrow.
All right, number 8's good.
Yep. Okay.
Number 9, support efforts to establish a business district organization, which we have, I think.
Right.
Or volunteer association of business owners, that would be more of what they are, I believe, that can coordinate joint marketing and incentives of the district. So I think that we're already doing that with the Downtown Business Association. Does anybody go to that here?
I do.
Yeah.
So how's that going?
Not very good right now. They lost one of their key leaders, and it's gone from being monthly now to quarterly.
Really?
Yeah. But if you get a revitalization going, I think you'll get other business owners.
Interest would rise.
Yes. Yeah. Right now it's struggling.
Is it just for downtown business owners, or
no?
all
It's for anyone that has a business within the city limits of Gladstone.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyone. It could be one of the car lots, whatever. But when Walt retired and no longer is doing it, it was handed down to somebody else, and just doesn't have the boom that it used to have. So, but if there was some sort of incentive, like seeing things improve and, growth opportunities, I think you'd see more people starting to attend.
Okay. Well, we hope that that'll happen.
Yeah. I'm okay with number 9.
Yeah, the language is fine.
Number 10, assist businesses and property owners with enhancing the exterior appearance of buildings to attract new tenants and contribute to the aesthetic quality of the downtown.
Without using urban renewal
funds.
Okay, do you want to put that on there?
Yes.
I think we talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine with that change.
Manage on-street parking throughout the district to encourage short-term use by visitors and customers. So that's, I think, the 4-hour thing, which I think is twice as long as it should be if you really want to free up those parking places. If I worked in this building and I wanted to park free, I'd just park there, and at lunchtime I'd move my car over to Linda's place for a little bit, and drive back over here and park in the same spot. And so I think that really needs to be, in my opinion, reduced. But it does say, like was pointed out, we're gonna get in the weeds on some of the stuff we don't need to.
Right.
So manage on-street parking through the district to encourage short-term use by visitors and customers. I'm good with that.
I'm good with that too.
Provide off-street parking near the downtown core to support shared parking needs of civic functions and small businesses.
I'm good
So
with that.
let's buy the Happy Place and Don's Lockers lot, and we'll build a municipal parking lot with a restroom there to promote our downtown activities.
Couldn't agree with you more.
All right, so we're good with 12.
12, yeah.
And, you know, I'm just kind of kidding about that stuff. It's not on there. So it's just, what it says is just what I read before I made my comments and opinions. 13, reduce off-street parking requirements for private developers to promote efficient use of land while balancing the need for adequate parking throughout the district.
I don't think we should reduce. I think it should read,
No.
That whole
provide
statement's
off-street parking.
counterintuitive.
13 is a very unlucky number in this case.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
I don't think there should be any change to what our current code is for parking. It should not be
Furthermore,
restricted.
what is the value of a parking spot? In all of the discussions, if you've ever built anything, if you've ever run a business, if you've ever been a barber in the smallest town in Oregon, tell me what the value of a parking spot is downtown. The value of parking, and I'm not suggesting we have angle parking on both sides of the street or that we try and build a $50 million parking structure. I'm saying that the value of parking is overlooked in a lot of what we're seeing here. And the value to the businesses of parking and the turnover that Randy's talking about is essential, or we're going to have people that aren't going to make it in this town. That will be the end result. And then rents go down, leases go down because we're not attracting quite who we thought. And I've just got concerns about
I
the
don't think we should reduce any of the
verbiage
parking.
there.
Well, I think, though, that we need to think about, you know, if we're going to promote business growth in downtown, there is no parking, really. I mean, seriously, there isn't.
No.
That's why we need
How are we going, because we can't say you got to have this many parking places when there isn't any. So, you know, if we had a park and ride lot somewhere or other parking without tearing down the old library, that would be nice, but we don't. So I think that, you know, at some point we're going to have to reduce the amount of parking requirements for downtown, in my opinion. And that was I don't know what that number is going to be, and I really doubt that anybody that's going to build a building, if ever they do, you know, build a bunch of buildings down here, that they're going to put basements in it for parking. I don't even know how they could. How would you get that drive to go
Lots are
down
far
there?
too small to do something like that. To even
Not
build
only
a
that, too rocky.
to
It'd be
build
hard
a
for
podium
people.
style building, you still
And if you look in
wouldn't be able
Selwood,
to
they're doing a
accomplish
lot
it.
of residential with parking underneath, but on a commercial downtown strip,
Milwaukee
you know,
Avenue.
yeah, you're not going to, you know, not that we wouldn't have any, but we're certainly not going to have 3 or 4 blocks where 2/3 of the main floor is parking, you know.
How about if we said something like minimally reduce instead of reduce, to, you know, kind of make the statement that we don't think that, and I'm in agreement that we have to figure out the parking, because people, if they're going to, you know, live up above, like the coffee shop, they have that apartment up there,
Right.
and if a couple people live there and they can't park in the alley, and they both have cars, you know, that's 2 parking places. Where are they going to park? And that's just one apartment. So if they build like 4 or 5 apartments, that would take all the parking on Portland Avenue. And so we have to think about that when the time comes, which, you know, now we just need to make a note here that somehow, I believe, this is my belief, that we know that there's a problem, but yet we need to find a solution for that, and we're not going to do that tonight. But it probably is going to require that we do reduce the requirements somewhat.
What are our current requirements?
Well,
I think it was like for a 1 unit, like an apartment, 1 unit, it was like 2 cars or something, wasn't it?
I think
1.5.
1.5.
1.5, and I think they're proposing to move it to 0.5. Is that right?
Yeah.
So again, that, you're not approving that. All you're
Right.
saying is you're approving reducing the off-street parking.
Yeah, yeah.
And if it actually were to come to fruition, you'll have to review it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But
Can't we
we're still,
just say-
we're still going, we're by, just by our consensus, we're rubber stamping in a way what you just said, and that is, we're going to .5. I'm not
Let's
trying to put
say-
you on the
It's our
spot here.
suggestion.
I understand
If-
that legally that is not what we're authorizing. We're not authorizing anything here, except we're concerned about parking. I believe it's being glossed over, and I believe that we have a code or that says 1.5 spaces. Now we're going to have a third of that. Now, are we authorizing that? Maybe not. Is that where we're heading? Of course it is. So I'm deeply concerned about any document that we go along with, generally or specifically, that creates that scenario. And I look through this, and that we're back to that same issue. We're not going to turn into Sellwood. I'm not going to sit here and let it happen.
Can we say minimally reduce and let city council know that we
Yeah.
don't,
Maybe
you know,
marginally
as a
or
city,
something.
or marginally, or
We just
something like
take it out
that,
and they can put it back in.
to let
if they
city
want
council
to.
know
I
that the
mean,
citizens
we're
have testified and we as a commission agree that, you know, we don't want to see this thing open up to .25 or .5 for a one unit.
And when I see balancing the needs, balancing is a, there's a lot of wiggle room with the word balancing, and so how are we going to balance something when we don't have it? We're building our way into a problem. So 13 is a deal killer for me, folks. I'm not that uncomfortable with the rest of this, but 13's been a deal killer since we started talking about the transportation plan months ago, and months ago when we started on this plan. I apologize if I sound like a broken record.
I think Commissioner Wentz's idea of just removing number 13 is not a bad idea.
Yeah. And
Okay,
But I don't think any of us are really comfortable
No.
with it.
Well, personally, I think that I'd like to see something there, but I'm not going to get stuck on it, and I'll vote. It's not going to cause me to vote no on this thing if we strike 13. So, as a commission, are we agreeing that we can strike 13 and nobody's going to
Okay.
have a huge issue?
I think we should strike it.
All right, so we'll
How do you
strike
feel?
13 and can we make a note in the minutes that we did that? In case somebody doesn't watch the video? That specifically we struck 13 because of the parking issues?
Because as you
Well,
stated,
isn't
Chair
that why
Willett.
he's keeping notes, so we can
Yeah.
agree with this stuff?
I just want to make sure that it doesn't get lost somewhere.
You're going to be able to read my notes?
Try.
So, David, what is the next most important thing that you think there is we need to get through to make our recommendation?
So I guess what I would do is maybe just review briefly what you've come up with. I don't know who was taking notes. I've got some notes myself, but I think just go through 1 through 13, recognizing you just struck 13.
Les, you want to do that?
It looks like I have changes to number 1, number 3, and number 10.
Those are the ones I have.
Yep.
Yeah, and then, of course, the elimination of 13.
And then number 13 is
possibility.
gone,
Yeah.
correct.
That's what I have as well.
That's what I have.
So I have a number 1 that you have changed the designation of downtown Gladstone as a town center to the designation of downtown Gladstone as a main street.
Correct.
Number 3, I have encourage retail and mixed-use development instead of incentivize.
Yep.
And number 10, I have attract new tenants and contribute to the aesthetic quality of downtown without using urban renewal funds. And then you struck 13. So really a motion, the easy way to do that would just be a motion that would include the changes that I just read, or if someone else wants to reread them.
You want to do that now, and then do we need to go through Appendix C or?
You have not been called on to do that, because those are going to be things that would...
Right.
Well, I'm good with making the motion, and then,
Do
does
we need to
anybody want to
change,
make a
do we need to
speech?
close the public hearing or anything first?
Yeah, we should.
I would do that.
But before we do that, let's all make a speech if we want to make one. starting with Commissioner Smith.
Okay, I do have a couple of short statements. I feel almost inadequate in speaking. I've only been here 36 years, not 60 like some of our people who are in. I'm a citizen. I'm basically in favor of what this plan is trying to do. I want to start by complimenting Councilor Milts for being here. He's taken an active part in the legislative hearings. He can't really be in here for the quasi-judicials, but and for some input and guidance. It's been welcome. But I've got a couple of things that I think are germane to where you guys go with this. First of all, I think as a package, the city needs to get in front of the code enforcement changes that have been proposed by the police department and either pass them or don't pass them. It's part of an overall enhancement of the city. Mr. Everett remarked about he's not crazy out looking out of his business at a refrigerator and stuff on the property across the street. I think everybody can find something in Gladstone that's going on like that detracts from the neighborhood. And I think this is it's like meshing gears. All the teeth have to be in one spot, and I would encourage you to do that. The other is some kind of a municipal parking lot. Parking is the only issue that continues to come up as a problem, and if the city doesn't do something about municipal parking, you're going to have a lot of unhappy citizens up to about probably the 400 block on either side of Portland Avenue for the length of the new proposed corridor. If you don't think that's happened, Commissioner Poole mentioned Selwood area. Drive up and down Division Street. One time I worked on 37th and Division in a part-time job. There was nobody there. Now there must be conservatively 50 to 75 restaurants between 20 and 35th, and you can't park off. You park off Division 3 or 4 blocks to use some of those in neighborhoods. And I don't think we want to turn Gladstone into that. And a municipal parking lot like they have in Milwaukee seems to be the best possible use for that. My speech is done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good speech. Well, I appreciate the hard work. I know it just must have been overwhelming, all the citizens and stakeholders that worked on this. I think there's a lot of good stuff in it. And but I think it is important to ultimately remember we are not Portland and we are not Beaverton. We are Gladstone, and by our own quirky smallness, Main Street feel is really, I think, more representative of Gladstone than any of the highfalutin, archways or big signs to say you finally made it. And I think it'll be great. Since they did the trolley trail, I've been thinking we need to spend the money to just continue the trolley trail to the bridge, which is no longer there, just to get people coming through. Because I do believe if you make a place inviting and a way for people to get through it, then the businesses will follow and will build and improve everything, and it just snowballs until we're the best Gladstone we can be.
Thank you. I agree with the vast majority of what she said. I probably agree with all of it, but I'm not sure. Just a couple of things. One is I appreciate folks putting up with my line in the sand, I'll call it, because I know we're not here to redline everything or dictate policy, but I also know that whatever we do, whatever we say, and whatever we approve is subject to interpretation. And when someone is on the other end interpreting, they may not be thinking of what you were thinking of when you said town center. I'm just being hypothetical. And I think the council is really going to be hard-pressed to come up with solutions for parking and for commercial parking, commercial traffic flow. What I see missing here is number 14. With all of the accommodations that I see here and all the things I like, I go back and I say, where's the UPS truck parking? Where are the customers? How are they going to interact with the deliveries? I'm seeing a lot of things there, and again, I'm not here to get too far in the weeds, but we have a lack of in the exuberance to to get the cars out of here and make it friendlier and walkable and bikeable and meet Metro's aspirations and some of our own, we're ignoring the fact that commerce is going to be choked down here and that we're going to end up with the UPS drivers blocking the streets and this kind of stuff. So I'm really concerned about how we're going to deal with commercial parking and deliveries, and how we address the use of that alley. That's a real big thing for me. And I agree, the loss of the trolley bridge was a hard one to swallow, but we still need to get there. And how that trail, which is currently on the west side, comes in, how the trolley trail comes into town, and what happens from Abernathy down to Portland and to the river, is near and dear to all of us. And so, you know, do we have the trolley trail, as I'll call it, or more of a focus on one side or the other? Are we mixing the bikes with the cars and then leaving nice wide sidewalks for the walkers? I'd like to see that, but again, I just see this parking thing and the lack of consideration for commerce and deliveries to be a shortcoming here, and because we've dropped number 13 and because I think we're going to see some heartfelt effort to address this, then I'm comfortable to move forward. And of course, I, as Les Poole's citizen, will be in front of the council, right? Thank you for your help, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I've got a picture of my grandmother standing on the trolley trail bridge, probably about 1925, and that was my grandma Kelly, who was born in Clackamas County in 1890 or somewhere around there. And as a young man, my other grandma Roulette, you know, moved into Gladstone in 1947 when my dad and my uncle bought her a house down on West Dartmouth. My dad had a grocery store on the highway here for a lot of years. You know, I worked in that store as a kid, sorting bottles and carrying boxes. And I also, you know, went and used the businesses on Portland Avenue here in the 1960s when there was really legitimate business. You know, the variety store, you could get anything. And the Oregon City Shopping Center, walk across the trolley trail bridge, there's a trail right down the shopping center. The railroad tracks run right there. And you could actually walk on it in those days, and I did that a lot. And I guess what I'm saying is Portland Avenue needs to, you know, died a slow death for a long time. And it can come back. The business will be different. But I think, you know, what we're doing, or what the city's going to do with this plan is going to really benefit all of the citizens of Gladstone. That's all.
I'm in agreement with almost everything that's been said thus far. I love my city. I do most of my trading here. There's very few, other than my employer provides health insurance through Kaiser. I do everything here within my city. I do believe and support that we need to revitalize our downtown core. But we also have to be accountable and responsible for what is spent in doing this and being able to provide enough accommodations for parking. I also believe that if you get citizens involved, you can come up with alternative ideas to solve problems like that. I have some in my head, but I also know that other people can come up with maybe even better solutions. But I do feel that we need to move forward, and there's a lot of good stuff here, and there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be worked on. Remember,
you know,
speak in the mic.
Yeah, no, try to get used to this, huh? Yeah, I love Gladstone too, just like everybody else here. I grew up in the area. I went direct to Putnam High School actually, though, but I hope you guys don't hate me for that. But
we'll forgive you.
Yeah. But I just being, you know, coming into my own with the family, and you know, getting taken off of my career, and we love it here in Gladstone, and you know, we would like to see, you know, this downtown area develop. I think this plan is really good. I think I do feel like it does address some forms of parking in here. It might not be to the extent that everybody would want it to be, but I think you got to keep in mind that these lots are pretty small, so it's very difficult to find, a solution within the building footprints or the property footprint to find that. So that challenge is just going to be there, and offering a civil parking, support shared parking needs at civil functions and small businesses. I feel like that's their way of putting something there. And again, it's not descriptive, but that could be a pretty large facility down the road. You never know. And I think there's some concerns with building up the businesses, but in this plan, assisting property owners with enhancing their exterior appearances. That means things aren't going to change necessarily with the size of the building. That's fixing what's out there right now. So I think that's something to keep in mind, So that's my point.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Somebody have a motion ready?
We need to close the public hearing first.
And let's make a motion to do that. Somebody.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Moved by Commissioner Poole and seconded by Commissioner Wentz.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Motion passes. Next. Anybody want to say anything else, or does somebody have a motion ready?
I make a motion that we move along Appendix A 1 through 12 with our approval to the City Council for further action.
Including our changes that we made, 1 through 12?
Yes, including our changes.
I second that.
Pat Smith made the motion, and
Natalie Smith.
Natalie Smith made the second. Do we do a roll call on this one? Or is
It's up to you.
Let's do it.
Let's do a roll call.
Yeah.
Commissioner Langston?
Present.
No, you're supposed to say yes.
Oh, you gotta
Oh,
say.
sorry.
That's
Sorry.
all right. Same
That's
difference.
okay.
Yes.
You are present. We're glad you're here, too.
So yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Natalie Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Poole?
Yes.
Commissioner Wentz?
Yes.
Commissioner Pat Smith?
Yes.
Chair Rowlett?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. And there was a lot of work done on this, and we do appreciate it. And the City Council will be doing a lot of work on this as well. And there'll be a lot of city staff putting a lot of hours in on this still. And I think for years to come, this will be, as we do the code amendments and so forth, and I hope the public can put up with my voice and come to the meetings. That'd be great. So that's the end of the regular agenda. Do we have business from the commission?
One of the things that the staff report asked you to also include was a recommendation regarding the overlay map. That was one of the recommendations. The comprehensive column map change to add downtown core overlay. Are you going to take action on that tonight, or you want to council meeting with that?
David, what do you think? Because I missed that, apparently.
Yeah, I did as well. I don't know. I hate to just sort of bounce the ball here, but Jenny was, involved in the project much more closely than I am. I guess I don't know if it's critical that they adopt that or recommend adoption.
Well, what we're saying, we're asking in the staff report was the three proposals. So the council approved amendments would adopt the downtown revitalization plan as a guidance document, adopt the comprehensive plan text changes, which is, I think, what we just talked about, and then adopt a comprehensive plan map change. Is what we were originally asking.
Okay.
So is that map then? Where is the map? I guess is.
Yeah, where is it?
The one that shows the Is it on page 2 of the present
Downtown
plan?
revitalization plan, is it this one?
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm thinking, yeah.
Okay. And where exactly did you find that?
Appendix C
On the page
Very
2
far in
of the,
of Appendix C.
It's about
Oh,
10
okay,
pages
yep,
past where
appendix
we
C,
were.
Yeah, I've got Appendix C. I had that actually
Right there,
tabbed,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I've looked at that. You guys want to go do this now? I think that the city council would appreciate if we did.
I'm fine with that.
We have to reopen the meeting.
Well, you haven't closed the meeting yet.
No, it
You
doesn't.
haven't adjourned yet, so you can take it up now. That's fine. I guess I just want to make sure we've got the right map.
Hearing,
though.
but
You can reopen the hearing for the
Yeah,
map. That's
we're
not a
still
problem.
here. Yeah, you can reopen.
hey, do we have a motion to reopen the hearing?
I make a motion that we reopen the public hearing to
Moved
discuss
by-
the map overlay.
Moved by Natalie Smith,
A second.
seconded by Commissioner Wentz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed. The public hearing's open again.
You wanna go to
And we're going to talk about Appendix C, the transportation design, the corridor map.
Is that the right map, though? I guess I just want to be
I
sure.
mentioned, because it's showing the mixed use on, mixed use corridor with the downtown core with Festival Street, and then just the downtown core. Is that the intent?
Michael, are we in
Oh,
the
if
right
it's the right map.
spot, do you think?
You know, some of these appendixes may have changed the lettering, but I thought it was part 1, the first item on appendix B, which talks about development code strategy. The reason you need an overlay is that you can have some slightly different code requirements in one part of the downtown.
Yeah.
And the ones that exist already in that whole zone. So all of downtown,
There is no map in B.
from,
The map in B.
yeah, there's not a map in there.
But the map in C would be that map.
Yeah.
So the map in Appendix C would be the map that we're referring to in this text, and I'm guessing that that's what we're supposed to do.
Okay, so the concept of having an overlay map is discussed in Appendix B. The map itself that you can see is part of Appendix C.
Figure 1 street segments of the different streetscape treatments. I'm not sure that's it.
Well, there's, in that Appendix C, there's several, there's the overlay, which is the mixed-use corridor, downtown core, and,
The downtown core
Mhm.
overlay that staff report was requested to be part of the recommendation.
okay.
And
It's in Appendix C on page 2.
Is there anywhere like a legend to explain what the red dotted lines or blue dotted lines or yellow is, just so we're clear on what each thing means?
Is that the urban renewal? Or is that the commercial
I
zoning?
think those are intersections.
The little red line?
The commercial
That's
zone
why it
is
needs to be
inside the red
Commercial
border.
zoning, right?
Well, there's, I'm not sure.
Avenues are
I'm
yellow.
not sure that's the right map.
Well, a couple of things that I think when I looked at that map, the red dotted lines is the boundaries of the corridor.
Here, I found it. So the blue dots, gateways at key intersections. Nothing's really.
Does it say the red?
No, nothing's really pointing to it.
No, it doesn't.
And then it just points out the mixed-use corridor, streetscapes, downtown core, festival streets, and then downtown core.
You know, one thing we could do is maybe have the, I don't know if it'll be someone from Johnson, just confirm what exactly that map, I know they're not
Which
here
overlay
tonight,
map it is, because I'm
but
not finding...
I think it would be a little haphazard just to pick,
Yeah.
you know,
any
a
old
map.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
agree.
think it's a specific map somewhere in here, but we just don't, you know, there's a lot of documentation in
And
here.
Appendix B is really a bunch of code stuff, which I didn't think that we were going to get into, all in the weeds of the codes and stuff.
It more likely, in my experience, would look like something that's, God, it's in Appendix E.
Appendix E?
I know one of the things I read, and I made a tab, was the consultants mentioned Appendix C as an important part of this, so that might be what they meant.
Jenny, do you, by any chance, do you know which overlay map they're?
Yeah,
Almost a diagrams.
It is pretty haphazard to try to approve something and we don't know what.
We don't know what it is.
I mean, one thing you could do is, Councilor Mills, do you know when the council is anticipating taking this up in the February meeting?
It's the first February meeting, so it would be...
Right. 13th.
So, I mean, one thing you could consider is just basically the map is going to be what the map is, and it's probably going to look a lot like this. And there's not page numbers in this thing, so it's really hard to tell you where to find it, but it's the beginning of Exhibit Appendix E, Existing Conditions Report, which just draws a big boundary about the area we've been talking about, and just says that's the for the comprehensive plan, that's how it would be identified. And make sure, what I would say is just have staff coordinate with the folks that put that together.
This one.
I found
And on it too.
in the the plan. If you go to the downtown vision, which is number 3, on page 20, it says downtown core code overlay. New development in downtown core will reflect the following uses: commercial and residential permitted outright, no ground floor residential. Building heights limited to 35 feet, 3 stories with allowance to 40 feet if the ground floor is 15 plus feet. Setbacks: commercial, no minimum 5 foot max on Portland. Residential, 5 foot minimum front, side, 15 to the rear. Off-street parking requirements: most commercial use 1 space per 600 feet. Residential, 0.5 feet per dwelling unit. Landscaping: no overall minimum, but perimeter of parking areas on lot edge must include 5-foot landscape strip. No drive-throughs permitted. Property fronting Portland Avenue must meet window standards. Minimum area of width of the ground floor facade.
I think that's more of what the code requirements would ultimately be. What we're looking for is usually it's just going to be a simple map that would be part of your comp plan that would just have some coloring, something a lot like that.
Yeah.
But it's just not. There's a lot of them.
It's not clear which one it is.
There's just a lot of them. So,
Michael, do you see that it's going to hold up any...
The actual definition is from Exeter.
Yeah.
Arlington to Exeter.
I also found that too.
Downtown core overlay zone.
Of the C2
yeah. Now where is
halfway
downtown
down
revitalization?
Portland Avenue.
This is
It's
the original
mainly
document on page 18.
the structures that face Portland Avenue.
Well, I think...
But that's, it would be better, I think, to get a map.
That it's clearly the one that we're referring to.
That's my feeling. It might
Well,
be.
I think, it's hard for us to discuss something when it's not specific about what we're supposed to be discussing, for sure.
So one way it could be addressed and still let the council consider it in February without having to. I mean, this is if you're comfortable with it. It's
I don't
just,
think that, what do you commissioners think? Personally, my feeling is that's something that they're going to have to go over anyway. And we see what the intent is, I think, and if anybody has a big problem with the intent, then we should say something. Otherwise, let's just say that we're not going to look at that.
Without knowing which overlay map to review.
it's going to be a pretty simple map that just identifies where these plan provisions would apply that you just
It'd be
passed.
nice if we had,
There's some language
specifics
that
about that,
articulates
though.
what
I
the-
agree.
what the area
But it literally should be a visual, and it should just be
Right.
something a lot like Commissioner Smith showed. I just don't know. If you start looking through, there's dozens of those.
Which one is it?
So should we make a statement about the maps or not?
It's up to you. But I think the easiest way to address it is to maybe, as part of your statement, say, have staff coordinate with, whether it's Johnson or whomever put the maps together, to identify the map before the city council hearing.
Somebody want to wordsmith that and get it ready, and then we can make a motion and vote on it.
Well, I think you wordsmithed it, didn't you? Somebody should
Yeah, you could say so moved.
that, so the
So
motion
moved.
would be... Okay.
Okay, somebody make a motion. What David said.
I make a motion that we approve and recommend what our legal counsel has stated for regarding the overlay map that is needed for us to review.
For city council to review the overlay map that was not provided specifically in the packet.
Correct.
Does that sound good, Tammy?
Would you repeat it again, please?
Sure.
Clarification as to what he said.
Sure, and so someone can just say so moved after I say it. That's a motion.
Oh, okay.
Right? So what I would suggest is to have staff contract the consultants and have the consultants identify the map before the city council meeting in February.
So moved.
There you go. And that can be seconded.
And certainly,
I
we'll get a
second that.
copy of that, we'll get a copy of that before the meeting, if you would, just so...
A copy
would
of...
that be...
Provide a copy of the map to the
To the
planning
planning
commission.
commission, just so
Okay.
we know we're seeing what we think we are, and I think we'd be fine that way.
Tammy, do you have the first and second on that?
I do not. I had Natalie made a motion to approve.
Is that right, Natalie? Did
Yeah,
But I
you-
don't have-
Natalie Smith made a motion to approve, and Commissioner Patrick Smith second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, motion passes. Okay, so, I believe that, let's get a motion to adjourn the meeting, or let's have business from the council.
We have to close the public hearing again.
Let's close the public hearing again.
I'm a stickler, aren't I?
That's good, that's why you're here.
Otherwise, our
I make a
comments-
motion that we now close the public hearing.
Motion made by Natalie Smith to close the public hearing,
Someone second.
I'll second that.
seconded by Commissioner Les Poole. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, motion passes. Business from the Planning Commission?
Oh. They're doing remodeling, substantial remodeling on the old site of Tebow's.
Oh.
Nothing ever came before the planning commission about that.
There was a building permit issued, and the building permit said minor modifications, and I tend to agree with you that it was not minor.
It's not minor.
And the whole building is being
Extensively.
re-facade.
Yeah, they put a new exterior.
Is that becoming part of the car thing? Going to
Yep,
the car
it's a car
dealership?
dealership.
They've taken out walls inside as well.
Yeah,
It is not
and
minor.
they've replaced siding. Yeah, I've seen it. I live right there. I've seen it.
Oh, you do?
So
Okay,
that-
have you walked inside?
I
They've
haven't walked
removed,
inside yet.
a lot of the walls that separated the restaurant from the kitchen have been taken
I
out.
do know they have a pile of trash laying out in the back, too.
Well, it was, supposed to be a minor, and that's another one where, at some point, I think the planning commission needs to recommend the city council that, we look at some of this stuff, especially on commercial. And I think all the commissioners agree that, a lot of this stuff we've missed. I'm, meeting this Thursday with the city administrator, Councilor Milch, and myself. Who else is gonna be there, Michael?
I don't know if we can say publicly, but there's a significant person.
We're with Clackamas County Planning, and we're going to discuss a few of these things, and
Wonderful.
that'll be one of the things I'll mention, I know for sure, during that meeting, that we need to be more on top of these building permits, because I really do believe that it's gone way past what it should have.
Well, my concern when I saw it was that that's a major intersection facing McLaughlin. Whatever the outside of it's going to look like is going to have an impact to our city, and that should have come before us.
Yeah, you'd think it would have been design review.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what the
I
application
seriously
looks like,
believe
but-
that. So that's why I know there's been issues in the past, and I think those will be rectified when we have our new person from Clackamas County that will be working with us directly. And I know that you're going to express this concern when you have your meeting. Because there have been a lot of things in the last couple of years that should have come before us and did not.
Mm-hmm. A couple of thoughts real quick. One is, it's interesting, our new commissioner mentioned that the blue bubbles on this map, those are gateways at every intersection.
Is that what gateway means?
Just having a little fun there. We'll make sure that everyone knows what a gateway is going to be by the time we get there. Just a question, we had some joint training or something next week. I'm sure Tammy could maybe just jog my tattered memory.
29th.
January 29th.
Okay.
It will be located here, and it is for training and orientation. So it's for current members as well as new members to attend.
Thank you.
Refresher course.
Chairman Roulette, Commissioner Malachi sent in a note tonight, which we all got a copy of, and I'm wondering if that was read into the record.
I think we
I
did.
read it.
Yeah, we did read
Yep.
that.
Because his comments are, especially tonight, are very germane about having better indexed, trackable information so we can find what we're looking for.
Here, here. Anything else? I have a training manual. I don't know if you got this yet. I've got some other stuff I'll email to you, but I had an extra copy of that.
I think I have this.
Okay.
Introductory guide, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one to read all the way through, and it's got, the basics of a lot of stuff nobody knows
Yeah, no.
or remembers. I read it all the time because I can't remember all the stuff.
Oh, yeah, I have it
Anything
already.
else? Motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Commissioner Pat Smith made a motion to adjourn,
I second.
seconded by Commissioner Natalie Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. Thank you.
I want to get your name right,
Thank you.
Andrell.
Yeah, perfect.